Hi guys, we have an incredible prize this week. We have a copy of This War of Mine up for grabs. Along with that, the winner is also going to be custom sculpted as a miniature that the guys at Awaken Realms are going to paint up and create a stat card so you can play yourself in This War of Mine. Along with that, we have 3 other prizes to give away, which are 3 Steam copies of the This War of Mine original game. Get your comments in on Beasts of War, Facebook or YouTube for your chance to win.
Humanity has been driven from Earth, but now it's time to take it back. Join the Reconquest and fight the Scourge on the Drop Zone Commander Hub at beastsofwar.com. Become a general of mighty armies at the Kings of War Hub. Take command of elves, dwarves and orcs in this game of massed fantasy combat on beastsofwar.com.
Morning everybody, welcome to the Weekender.
Good morning!
Warren returns. How you feeling?
Yes.
How you feeling? Come on, tell us. The world wants to know.
Well, firstly, we got a couple of announcements to make. Firstly, we're filming this early. We're not filming at the weekend. We're filming early. So the competition winner for Prodos will be in next week's show. Yep. Okay, to give you guys some ample time because we couldn't really pick a winner because it hadn't come up to the weekend. So comment on last week's show, and do you know what? Will we get them to comment on this week's show as well? And you get another chance, and we'll bundle it all together and pick a winner.
And for anyone that missed last week's show, what the prize is the 3 latest releases from AVP. So you've got the Youngbloods, the Facehuggers, and the Sentry Turret.
Now we had to film early because Lloyd unfortunately had a bereavement, so him and Nana have had to fly out, and then these 2 Egypts are away to do some major coverage of the EU Masters. We'll be talking more about that. So that kind of put all the pressure on, and if we hadn't done it this way, you would have had your weekend just looking at me, talking at you. and you really don't want that.
It wouldn't be all, because we do have our live blog.
Yeah, well, you know, other than what they're doing, but your Weekender would have consisted of me sitting here on my own going, I am so out of the loop. I am so out of the loop. I'm just back from honeymoon.
Yeah.
And for the first time ever, normally whenever I take a holiday or something like that, I spend the entire holiday sneaking around with my phone, sneaking on the Beasts of War and going, oh!
Let me guess, Andrea grumbling at you going, put it away.
She grumbles, put it away. I hardly ever looked at my phone. The entire time I was away. The other thing that happens to me anytime I go away is by the end of the break, even if it was only a weekend away, by the end of the break, I'm just chomping at the bit to get back in, right? But for the first time ever, and it's really worried me, I didn't feel much like coming back, and I hardly looked at my phone at all while I was away.
Here's the thing. You were riding a pure wave of euphoria from that beautiful week
I have never been so loved up in my entire life as I've been. I've been with the girl for 7 years. You could hardly say that it was new. We've been together for 7 years with 3 children, but I was so loved up, and I'm still feeling the effects of it. So I would be an utterly useless host right now because I'm just sitting here grinning at life and just going.
I'll tell you this, Warren. You see, whenever we were at the reception after the wedding,
yes,
you were up giving your speech. And midway through the speech, you actually choked up.
Oh, don't bring that up.
Now, hang on. I'm going to say this. As soon as you choked up, you actually caught me completely off guard. There was a wee tear in my ear.
Oh, a tear in your ear?
Tear in my eye.
A tear in your ear was a Jones.
No, you really caught me off guard. It was an absolutely beautiful day. I'm so happy for you.
It was the best day of my life, I've got to say.
Yeah.
I said to some folks, it absolutely, easily the best day of my life. And you're sitting thinking, yeah, you've had 3 kids and stuff like that. And a lot of people say that the moment their child was born was the best day of their lives. I can honestly say I found it horrifying. Childbirth is for a man is a what is that? So it was great. Long overdue.
It's here. It's squealing. I don't know what it wants. Oh God, I'm a horrible dad.
But it's left me now And I feel like I should just be on the other side of the screen. Here, move over. Make room in the bed. I'll just jump in beside you, pull up the blanket, and sit back and watch these guys, because I have no idea of what's been going on. I've come in today to find that Dark Souls busted something like 3.7 million.
Yeah, they went nuts.
What?
They went absolutely nuts.
That's huge. My other favorite Kickstarter on at the moment, the pirate game.
Oh yeah.
The, like
Blood and Plunder.
Blood and Thunder, 170, 180,000.
Yeah.
I'm sitting going, this is awesome. So anyway, I am very much kind of just relying on you guys to kind of ease me through it. One thing did happen while I was away, though.
Yeah.
You finished my Lost Patrol stuff.
Yes, we did, and it turned out good. I think it turned out good. I think you're going to be happy with it. So let me lay out a couple of tiles.
This was the project that whenever I fired it up, I just knew it myself that a number of people, and they did post in the comments of it. I saw it today when it came in, saying, Warren, when you started talking about making plants and foliage and stuff for this little game, we thought you were nuts. But I was right, and it did work out really, really well.
It did.
So
let me see if I can finish this.
He's looking for the tile.
I'm looking for the tile just so that I can make a legal board.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So
let's get our plants down.
Yeah. Let's see what. So this is your little scouts start in the middle like this. Yeah.
Yeah. All 5 start in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And don't forget that's the only tile that all 5 scouts can fit on.
Yes.
Now,
I'm not interested in the rules just yet because we are now going to do a playthrough on this. But I just wanted to show you the final effect of what was basically, for me, whenever I Lost Patrol come in, it's just a little simple game. It's a reuse. It's a reintroduction to a little throwaway game that was produced many years ago. It was an opportunity to bring it back. But for me, it was an opportunity to do a bit of hobby. And I'm going to talk about hobby more tomorrow in the XLBS show. But I wanted to take the opportunity to do something that I love doing on dungeon crawlers.
Yeah.
For me, the best dungeon crawlers, and again, apparently Warhammer Quest has broke as well, and I know nothing about it. I need to spend some time getting up to speed with that.
One thing.
Massive Darkness from Cool Mini or Not has come out while I've been away as well. But the thing about dungeon crawlers for me is that the best ones, like Hero Quest and Warhammer Quest, were made beautiful because they were 2.5D.
Yeah, so
in other words, they had your tiles and they had the little set-on pieces just to bring it to life.
Yeah, so kind of like Dungeon Saga with its stuff.
Exactly.
With all the really nice doors and stuff you have to break your way through.
This was me taking Lost Patrol and making it 2.5D.
Which I think
in a nice,
worked really
simple
nicely.
little way that for you and your mates, whenever you sit down to play it, you just have stick more foliage on it, Justin. It needs more foliage.
More foliage.
So it's keep going. More is more in this game. Just look at it. Just look at it. How cute is that? It just.
There you go.
I like it. I like it.
It's nice. It gives a nice sort of claustrophobic effect to it, as if they're actually standing in the jungle.
It does do that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The other thing it does is it gives you a bit of hobby.
Aye.
It gives you a bit of hobby. So something to say, do you know what? This is not just a game of Little Lost Patrol. It's now a nostalgia kick with a little bit extra.
See, I kind of see this as a bit of a gateway game as well. Now, I said this to Lloyd on the XLBS last week. If anyone watched that, that's where you've seen this before. I see this as, your mate's sort of interested in 40k, but you don't want to set him down to build a whole Space Marine army. Set him down to do a little bit of hobby on this. And if he's got the bug, if he's got that gamer gene, this will start to kick that off for him.
Do you know what? I said it to you during the unboxing. I think you're right. I think you're right. Yeah. I think it'd be a more fun introduction to it than, for example, the Battle of Macragge set. Yeah. And I really like the Battle of Macragge set, but I think as an introduction to what Gene Stealers and Nids can basically do.
Yeah.
It's great. It has that alien feel. More importantly, it has that Predator.
Yeah.
That Predator feel, and I think it's kind of cool.
Well,
anyway,
even for me, this is getting me to want to actually paint another Space Marine army.
Without gilding the lily on it too much, if you're interested in following along and having a go at this yourself, well, we have a full project vlog on the homepage. Go and check it out. There'll be a link in the show notes where there's like 30, 40 videos and updates in there.
We go through the full steps of
building, all the little
painting,
mini tutorials and everything on how it's all done. And it doesn't, it's not going to it's not going to break too much of a sweat in you, and you'll end up with something that is just that little bit extra cool whenever you come to actually play it. Right. Now, EU Masters.
Yes.
You guys are heading off to Czech Republic.
Brno.
Yeah, we are, yeah.
BRNO. I may be mispronouncing the city name.
So, Ben, what have you got in store for us?
Yeah, so this is going to be a massive thing for Privateer Press in Europe. This is their huge EU Masters Championship Tournament con, and some more words as well. It's where 1,000 gamers were whittled down to, I think it's 16 players, and they're all coming over to the Czech Republic to play these huge games to try and find out who's going to be the grand champion. There's going to be some great stuff happening over the weekend. So like on Friday, there's a really cool thing called Beer and Gears, which is really cool because it's sort of like a casual meetup where everybody gets to meet each other. And as you might imagine by the title, you drink beer and you play Warmachine. So we're going to check that out and see what that's like. And then over the Saturday and Sunday will be the two big, huge gaming days where you've got the really cool Champions Arena, which is where anybody can come along and sign up and play against the Masters, which is something quite fantastic. You get to test yourself. And then there's some really cool things like there's a Warlock and Warcasters Arena where they're like duking out against each other. Achievements are there. I think that maybe they watch one of our weekends. And there's also going to be a drink and paint competition.
Now, this is the one that interests me.
Yeah,
this is hang on, Warren, you remember when you and Dave Shoulder did the Flames of War Championship?
Yes.
I can just see something like that happening. I would like to take part in this, but I know I have to work that day, but I think it would be hilarious.
A drink and paint competition.
The way it works is, every time you wash your brush, you take a shot.
What if you wash your brush in your shot?
Oh, I don't know, but I think that's going to be hilarious to catch.
Yeah.
There's also a last chance qualifier for anybody who's going along to this event to get into the Masters. You know, so that last gasp, if you want to actually get into it. I like that idea. And I think the last thing there, we had Doug Hamilton, one of the sculptors from Privateer.
Yeah.
He's going to be doing a Q&A session on both days, which is going to be really cool. Then we get to the Sunday, which is going to be the main event, which is the EU Masters tournament.
Yeah.
Now, we have some guys turning up from the UK, but we also have a ton of people turning up from the rest of Europe.
All over Europe, yeah.
So I actually want to try and actually catch up with some of those guys before the event and get a couple of interviews to actually see how they play their games to become some of the best in Europe.
Yeah.
You know, which I think will be really interesting.
Well, I'm looking forward to the coverage. The only one warning that I give to both of you.
Okay.
Okay. And I take this very seriously.
Yes.
Bring us all the best coverage you can. Leave no stone unturned. But make sure you don't get under anybody's feet during the tournament.
Of course.
We do not interrupt people in the tournament. So it's
no.
so there's a balance there.
No,
okay.
I'm not going to be dropping in halfway through a game going, so hi, how you doing?
Yeah, how are you? I would have done that. So don't do what I would have done.
I've seen you do that, I think. I remember years ago.
Right. Well, before we rattle on, do you want to take a quick break and do some hubs?
Yeah,
because
I
can go to the toilet.
All right. Guys,
by the way, I am a storm pooper now.
Dude.
Yeah. I celebrated a birthday at the same day as the wedding, and the kids got me this. This is my new storm pooper shirt. Look, because they claim that I spend too long on the loo.
Working with you for about 7 years now, I can vouch for that.
Well, I do my best thinking on my throne.
All right,
so
guys.
it's wait, I've one other thing to mention.
I've
got a week to catch up. I hadn't realised, but I want to say a massive birthday wishes to Rasmus.
All right.
Okay, Rasmus is he's basically like my Viking bodyguard.
Aye.
But it turns out that the Norse gods had basically had it in their plans that we were always destined to meet, and he was always destined to be my Viking bodyguard.
Right.
Because he celebrates his birthday on exactly the same day I do.
The stars align. It's
The
magic.
stars aligned. that was it. BFF. BFF. I'm going to the loo.
All right, guys, here's some hubs.
From Viking halls to the cities of the future, terrain buffs will love our foreground hub. Watch gaming tables of all genres come to life at beastsofwar.com. It's time time for 28mm World War II action. Will you recreate history or reshape it your way? On the Bolt Action Hub at beastsofwar.com.
Relief. Okay, right, news, Justin.
Yeah, it's time to get you caught up in what's been going on in the world. So,
I'm gonna just chillax here.
well, no, you still have to. You have to control the camera.
Oh, that's all right. I'll just flip like that. Right. So tell me, what's happening?
All right, the first thing that has came up in the news is Descent: Road to Legend. It's a new app they've brought out to actually play along with the Descent board game. So this is going to allow you to play multiplayer games of Descent. So Ben, do you want to take us through some of the details here?
Yeah, sure. So this new app, which is completely free to download, which is fantastic, allows you to play the game fully cooperatively. So you no longer have to have an overlord in the game. And it was one of those things that Descent sort of struggled with a bit because the overlord was more often than not very, very powerful. And they were basically, it turned the game into a little bit of a slog. So this is their way of sort of remedying that and changing a little bit about how the game works. So you'll all pick your heroes and things like that. You get a set of starting skills now rather than just starting with the one. And the app handles everything that happens in the game. So it tells you where your next quests are, where your side quests are, what you can buy in the towns, how much money you've made. It spawns the monsters. They have their own sort of behaviors that you sort of have to follow down in like an order. It's a little bit like the old D&D adventure games that came out. So like, if X happens, do this kind of thing.
Right, and what?
And then basically it sort of deals with everything for you. It's a much more cooperative and engaging experience, and the story is just phenomenally well done. There's a little bit of voicing acting in there as well, really cool graphics and everything. Yeah.
I have to ask though, do you actually need the board game to play then, or can you just play it all on the tablet?
Yeah, Ben actually knows because I think you've actually played with the app, haven't you?
Yeah, I've played the tutorial and one of the first quests, and the whole deal with it is that what it'll do is you can input what parts of the Descent Second Edition line you have. So if you only have the core game, that's all you need, and it'll just remember what you have and drop those things in randomly, like the monsters and the tiles. If you have other expansions, it'll put those in. But you definitely do need the game because that's how you you move around as you normally would, and then it just takes cues from you. So if you say that like X character has stopped or moved and ended its turn, it will remember that, and then it will do something else. And
But do you have to tell it where you ended your turn?
No, you never have to tell it. Never have to tell it where you ended your turn. All the monster behavior is based upon what you've done. So, and like the layout of the rooms is based upon what you've done. So you just say, I have picked up this item, and it will remember that. And then any kind of behavior after that will be based upon where you are in the game world regardless.
Yeah.
So it'll always work it out, and like the little brain inside will decide how you play and what should happen next and things like that.
Well, this is interesting to me because this is the next logical step, because we've seen a number of Kickstarters now where the board games have come up, and then kind of towards your latter third of the stretch goals, you'll start to see things like AI decks and stuff like that. And cooperative play within board games is a biggie. Myth to me is one of the greatest games of all time, if you can get your head around it. Once you actually get to grips with Myth, it is a seriously good cooperative game.
Yeah.
But there is limitations to this flipping the card and these card-based AI mechanics.
See, I do like having a DM or a GM there because it's you against a person there.
Yes, but surely the middle ground here
Is something like this.
Is something like this, something app-based. Now, what I wanted to know, and you've answered that for me, Ben, was did it feel like it was embellishing a game rather than recreating Descent, that you would just be tapping the screen and you didn't even need the board and the miniatures in front of you?
Yeah, it feels like a very good ad. It's been very, very well done. Like, the thing that Fantasy Flight do is whenever they set out to do one of these kind of companion apps, it's always for a specific reason, and it always works really well and feels good within the game. Like, it worked fantastically for XCOM, and I think they've done a fantastic job here in that it just brings so much more to Descent than what it was. It felt a very versus and sort of mathy type of game to begin with, where you had to make the optimum moves and stuff like that. with this app, it feels much more like a story. It's very like the old style Warhammer Quest in the sense of like you feel like you're exploring, things are randomly popping up, you never quite know what's around the corner, kind of thing. And as I said, like I played Descent Second Edition and quite liked it, but it just became one of these things where one side of the other, be it Overlord or Heroes, just felt like they weren't having any fun because the other person was just winning.
Yeah.
This levels that playing field because you're all fighting from that same cooperative angle. And I think that's the thing that a lot of these dungeon crawlers are looking to do now. We'll talk about Massive Darkness at some point, and also Warhammer Quest Silver Tower, which does some fantastic things with that as well. But yeah, this is a really good app. And as I said, it's free. All you need is the Descent Second Edition box and you can play this. So, yeah.
The reason I'm so interested in this is I have a passion for all things technology as well. Recently we've seen that Disney have now started to invest in RFID. I was talking about RFID a good 2-3 years ago, where we would have RFID inside the bases of our miniatures, and you'd move your miniatures around the board, and then the RFID would be able to track where stuff is on the board, so that you can have more sophisticated bookkeeping, but it has to relate to the table. It can't be that Exilis where...
the way I think Lloyd described it once was the game would look at you and say, okay, you've given your results, let me close these curtains.
No, but it wasn't even about the curtains. The difficulty we've had in past implementations of it was that the actual computer software could have done it all, and you didn't actually need to move miniatures around. Okay. Whereas we're now getting to the stage where the actual software element is a true enhancement of what's on the tabletop. It has to start with what's on the tabletop. In fact, let me rephrase that. It has to start and finish with what's on the tabletop. All this can be is an enhancement. But RFID aside, we'll see where Disney go with that. My next major exciting moment, and why I'm really excited about this, is you look at the artificial intelligence that is now being pursued by Google, IBM. We have AI now that can beat Go masters. Okay, now that's significant. We're not talking about AI as in computers that'll strike up a conversation and stuff with you. But we're talking about deep learning mechanisms within computing. We're talking about computing power that just becomes really good at particular tasks in a way that you're not having to program it to become good at a task. It evolves how it becomes good at the task. And that Go, recently there was a tournament between a Go master. Go was an old Chinese game, where you use little black and white counters, and you have to surround your opponent in order to turn the white to black, or vice versa. The thing about Go and what made that such a special moment and such a huge moment in computing history and in terms of what we will face 5 to 10 years from now is that it was true machine learning. So chess, we've been playing against chess computers for God knows how long.
Yeah, but it's being programmed, here's strategy X, here's strategy Y.
Yes, because chess had a finite number of moves. So everything that was within chess had a finite number of moves, which meant that the machine would always be able to mine its database and make the optimum move based on what was in there. So you're not really talking about machine learning at that point. You're just talking about real kind of efficient ways of mining through your data. Okay. Go has more. I believe it's put to me like this: there are as many potential moves in Go as there are atoms or atoms within the known universe. Okay, so it is not feasibly possible to do it in a data mining way. It had to be done through kind of a machine learning type process. Now, if you take that they're able to do that with Go, now we're looking at taking the same kind of thing and applying it to our games. So Google and companies like this are now open sourcing their AI engines, where you can go in and actually start to spin up an AI bot and start to try and teach it things. This is a simplification of what's happening, but this is generally where we're headed with this. Now, imagine this is an app that has been programmed, it's fairly defined, it's going to let you play through a certain number of levels or whatever. Yeah. But really all it is a front end, okay? Later on, who's to say that these front ends won't be plugged into cloud-based AI, where you'll start to have this opportunity for levels of, I don't want to use the word intelligence too loosely, but a form of intelligence that you actually battle your games against. We've Dawn of War, another massive announcement. Dawn of War 3, it is coming out.
The trailer for that? Good
I'm
Lord,
a
that's gorgeous.
huge fan of the original. I think it was Dawn of War. I'm a huge fan of the original Dawn of War. And often we've said, people that just don't have enough of a support network around them to get games. It would be lovely to be able to have almost like an AI opponent that they can play against.
See, this is why Google Glass excited me whenever it came out, because I looked at it saying that could actually connect people and actually do holographic battlefields for people.
Yeah, we're on the cusp of so much, but for me, it can't stop being little toy soldiers and little bits and pieces of terrain and boards. I'm not interested in these initiatives to take board games into the digital world, because they're no longer board games. Well, they're no longer board games, they're just computer games. I love the physical aspects of what we do within this hobby. So as long as it starts with it and ends with it, I'm actually very excited by where we can go with the computer element that embellishes that allows it. I quite like the idea of me and Justin and Ben taking on Deep Blue in a dungeon crawler. Like we would stand a hell of a chance. But, we could whip off our loincloths and go in all our flappy glory. And
this is the thing, though. Whenever you have AIs that are set for games, you can have the master level program or the beginner level program, so that people who are coming fresh to the game aren't suddenly, opening up the game, turning on their app, and there's this behemoth of a monster of an AI just waiting to go, hey, I'm going to crush you.
There is an interesting aspect to this, and that is there does come a point where if you do introduce AI, there's no longer a game, because the AI will win all the time. The impressive thing, one of the impressive moments for me during the whole Go tournament with the man versus machine was, I think it was in round 4, man won.
Okay.
Oh no, it was round 5. I think he won he'd already lost the 3 out of 5, and I think round 4, the actual Go master beat the computer.
Yeah.
Now, to me, that was hugely significant. That was even more significant than the computer winning the first 3 and winning the tournament. The fact that that man was able to beat it left you with the sense of,
it's still learning.
It is but it's not that. It was a form of intelligence of some sort, because it was fallible. And the thing about AI is AI will always be fallible. There will never be an infallible AI. But the thing is, we are never likely to be able to trigger the fallibility of AI. You need to have a mega brain and to be incredibly good at something to ever be able to trigger it.
What I would like to see is 2 mirrors of that AI set to play 2 different masters to begin with, then set to play each other. Now, that I would find interesting.
I did that as a child. Well, not with AI. I remember we hooked up the chess chess program on a Commodore 64, and we hooked up the ZX Spectrum 48K and put its chess program on it. and we set them against each other, and every time they made a move, we went and programmed in on the other machine what the move was to try and see which computer would win. How weird and cheesy is that?
Oh, that sounds like exactly something I would try and do when I was a kid.
And I believe that it was the Commodore 64 that actually beat it, beat the Spectrum.
I'm guessing you set it to its hardest setting, yeah?
Yeah, we put them both on Grandmaster level, and that was it. We battered them at each other. The thing to bear in mind in all of this is when we're talking about artificial intelligence and the use of these kind of cloud-based AI and stuff, that it's all about where you're planning to go with it and where you're coming from, because I'm talking about the winning and stuff like that there, but what if the goal of the AI program was nothing to do with winning? What if its prime directive was to make sure you had the best game you could possibly have? So what if its entire programming, if its entire machine learning process wasn't about winning, but was about creating the best game that you're likely to have.
Yeah.
And it learned from the experiences of playing thousands and thousands of players, of trigger moments, of things that players really liked and stuff like that. There's so much opportunity there, I believe.
It'll be a lot more difficult to program, I would say, because it's very easy to program something to win. Because there was one I heard about, it's months and months ago now. They took an AI and hooked it up to a game of Tetris.
Yes.
And this thing kept playing Tetris, and eventually, obviously, it did start to make mistakes. So eventually, the game gets to the very top, the last piece goes in, and it's about to lose. So you know what the game does?
No.
Pauses. Nothing else. It figured out that the only way for it not to lose was to not play.
That's kind of weird. That's kind of like War Games level weird, isn't it, really?
That's what it did.
Yeah.
Which I thought was absolutely hilarious.
Well, to finish up this segment, I do have one final experiment in mind. Okay? And we talked about the ZX Spectrum versus the Commodore 64. I have the ultimate battle. You like Pac-Man, yeah?
Yeah.
You know how to play Pac-Man, right? Yeah. They've managed to hook up a cockroach to play Pac-Man.
What?
So I reckon if we got Justin versus the cockroach on a two-player game of Pac-Man.
I have missed you. I have missed you on this show, because we start talking about Descent and the fact that they've done a really cool app. We have gone off on a major tangent here into the future of humanity, AI controlling the world.
Well, the future of our humanity is gamers and hobbyists. Yeah. So, but yeah, so long as the app was an embellishment, and clearly it was. I'm really looking forward to it.
Ben says if you really enjoyed it.
Really looking forward to it. I hope to see Cool Mini or Not and Games Workshop and Mantic do something similar, because I think that there is. If we can enjoy a game where flipping some cards operates the darkness, I think we can definitely enjoy a game where there is some evil mind out in the cloud there. I don't think you necessarily need a GM. I think it makes for a great experience, but I think you could have an equally great and different experience because the experience is between the players. And it'll be interesting to see where this heads. I'm quite excited for it. I think that there might be potential. Who knows? Who knows?
Fair enough.
There's a lot of social aspects to it. There really is a lot of social aspects
to
to
it.
it.
So we need to program an AI just for Warren that when he makes a dumb move, it'll insult him.
I know there's DMs and GMs sitting, watching this going, you have no idea. And you're absolutely right. I don't believe it'll ever be a replacement. It will be something different.
Horses for courses. Different people like different things.
It'll be interesting to see, because when you have something that can learn so quickly and iterate through so many different experiences and things like that there, it's hard not to underestimate the potential of where that can go. It's interesting stuff, and I would far rather it be put towards playing games as to be put towards
making Skynet,
killing people. Yeah. Right, what's next, Ben?
Okay, so the next thing coming down from these lofty discussion heights is a really cool new crew for your games of 7TV. And this is the Shiva crew that has been developed, this fantastic little 8 miniature set. And they have also brought out the new sort of second edition program guide for these guys as well. So you'll learn all about the fictional history of this organization, this sort of criminal organization, their profile cards. You've got some updates from first edition, and there's also a little new episode for you to play as well.
Yeah, I'm seeing two of these guys. They look very Indiana Jones.
Which ones?
See the two at the bottom and the one on the top right there. Just reminds me of Indiana Jones for some reason.
To be honest,
look like the Temple of Doom guys. Yeah,
they do.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm loving this. I want to get this character here as my dungeon necromancer.
I don't know. Could they sculpt him with a bald head?
No. It'll be me. I that is me. And guess what, Justin?
I'm the guy in the red
You're the
robe.
you're the guy on the little foot on him. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. So it's
It's a very, very cool.
Who are
set.
these based on? I'm showing my ignorance on this, but what is Shiva? Is this a TV? Is this a TV show that I should know about?
I'm not entirely sure. I'm fairly sure that Crooked Dice base their stuff off lots of old TV shows.
Yeah.
I don't know what this stuff is based off. I know that the guys, as we say, have a bit of a Temple of Doom to them. The ninjas are also obviously very inspired by like the guy from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, whose name's escaped me. No, yeah, Splinter. No,
Shredder.
Shredder, yes,
Yeah.
Shredder. Yeah, but and I'm sure that Guru guy as well will be a
He's
major
kind of got the
character.
Ra's al Ghul look to him.
He does have a little bit of one, yeah.
Right. Do you know what? Last week, you guys were talking about a board game clearly based on the Warriors, and it was like none of you had watched the Warriors. And,
Oh, was this the Kickstarter?
yeah, we were going, hang on a second, that's the Warriors, dudes. You know, and so now I'm having my moment. I have no idea what I've just been looking at. So post below if you know what TV show that was based on. Definitely post it below. Right, I believe we're going to get to some more Dungeon Crawler news, Ben. Yeah.
Yeah, so the next thing is Massive Darkness that was announced at the Cormillon Expo, and this is going to be a new dungeon crawling game that's coming out to Kickstarter and then obviously to everybody else in the wild world straight after. And it's a cooperative one as well, completely cooperative, so no need for a DM or a GM, so it'll have some AI and things like that.
Oh.
But there's some really interesting things in here that set it apart a little bit from other dungeon crawlers in that they've invested very much in the aspect of exploration and almost ambushing and hiding. Because there's a thing in the game called the shadow areas. And this is where your warband or your group of adventurers can hide in the darkness from patrolling monsters that are wandering around the board. And it's all about attacking these enemies and using the darkness to your advantage, because standing up to these guys in a straight up fight just won't work. You will die, according to like some of the stuff that the guys were talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, this sounds really, really cool and an interesting take on the whole dungeon crawling experience where, you know, the whole sword and board in the front just getting stuck into the blood isn't going to really work out right for them. Yeah.
No, we're just having a look at the miniatures there, Ben, and there's something really interesting about those miniatures. It's almost like they have a deliberate rough texture applied to them. Was there any mention of the art direction and the sculpting of these?
When it comes to the actual miniatures that you're seeing here, I think these are some of the sort of earlier ones, so that might apply to some of that. But the actual details and stuff that you get on the miniatures, they've really gone for a tattered and worn look.
Yeah.
So it feels like the adventurers have been down in the dungeons for a long time. Because there are a lot of models that you get for dungeon crawlers where they don't really look. They look like they've just basically stepped out of the Hero Academy and they've gone right.
Yeah.
Adventure. Whereas these guys actually look like they've been stuck down in like a mine or something, and their clothes are tattered. They have chipped and broken weapons and all sorts of things. Yeah,
I think
it's really cool.
I've got to say though, looking at, we'll wait and see how the final renders and stuff turn out. But it looks to me like they've deliberately implemented. It's almost like an imperfections to the overall model, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Like, go back to that barbarian or the dwarf.
Yeah, I knew you'd want the barbarian up
It's
again.
just-
I looked at him and it just went, yep, that's
Look
Warren.
at it. And, you know, even though the way the fingers and everything has been sculpted, the thing that we've been seeing with a lot of the 3D sculpting recently, and these have been clearly 3D sculpted, I'm almost certain of that, but it's everything is so clean, whereas this just really gets away from that. It has an amazing kind of mix of the very newest approaches and the old school to it. It's really, really well done.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that Cool Mini and I have been really pushing forward with when it comes to their miniatures, because when you saw the likes of Blood Rage and the latest zombie side, which was Black Plague, and the quality of the miniatures that they'd done there, where they felt how sculpted, even though they must have gone through, as you say, a 3D process at the same time, they have gone through this really fantastic way of making it feel characteristic and individual and original almost. Yeah, it was actually one of the things that I'll talk about it later when we talk about Warhammer Fest in more detail, but I was talking to one of their digital sculptors and I said, how is it, do you prefer digital sculpting to the sort of hand stuff that you've done before? And he said that he really likes where digital sculpting is going now, because it's all very dependent upon the artist.
Yeah.
If they have the skill to use the program, they can make miniatures that look just like the ones that you picked up in the 90s or the 80s that you really loved, with the little finger marks and stuff on them, and like the sort of individual bits and sort of designers' quirks and things. So yeah, it's all just down to the artist, and I think that's sort of a process that people are really getting used to now, and we're getting some fantastic miniatures out of it.
At the end of the day, you know, it is just another tool, and it takes time for our artisans and our craftspeople to really get to grips with the tools, and it takes levels of experimentation as well. I'm really excited by this one, Ben, and I'm interested to see more about the exploratory aspects of it. And again, I'm a huge fan of cooperative games. I just think for myself, most of my gaming now is, if I don't get a game with these guys, the only real gaming opportunity I have these days is with my family, is with Andrea and Savannah and stuff like that. And it's nice to be able to play alongside them and take that journey together. So it'll be interesting. It'll be very, very interesting to see where this goes. I have high hopes for this one.
Well, before we move on, they've actually got some of the baddies sculpted in here as
Oh,
well.
very nice.
We've got little chaotic dwarf guys and stuff, which are looking really cool.
Yeah, these guys they sent over some really fantastic pictures of the minions and things that will be fighting, and these are the bosses that we picked out from their groups of images and stuff to show off. So we've got one for the evil dwarves with the big hammer, we've got the goblin archer boss as well there, who's a bit of a spellcaster, and then we've got the orc bruiser guy as well, the enforcer.
Yeah.
I think everyone seems to have a massive thing about big pointy hats for some reason in this game, but yeah. There are a lot of pointy hats. Yeah.
Yes, well,
not wrong with that.
Every good dungeon crawler has big kind of like pointy hats and stuff like that there. So it's part and parcel. Right? How are we wrapping up the news this morning, Justin?
It's actually something that I picked out that's really exciting me. Now, a little while ago, Ben got to go and check out Total War Warhammer.
Yes.
You know, he did the event thing. Yogscast have now come out with a video series for it.
Awesome.
And they've done it in my favourite way. Do you remember the old TV show where they used Total War to recreate battles from history?
Yes.
Oh, I forget the name. Ben,
Time Commanders.
Time Commanders, yeah.
They've done it in the Time Commander style. Look at this.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
So the guys have actually set themselves up, and they're just having an absolute blast with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole idea is they set up a fantastic set. They've done 2 videos in the series. There's one where they play as the Orcs versus Empire, and then there's one where they play as a Dwarven and Empire alliance against some vampire counts.
Yeah.
And it's just really good fun. The guys behind it are fantastic. They've put everything into it. The generals are hilarious. There is some bad language in there, so be warned if you're trying to watch it around small children and things like that. But yeah, they are really good fun, fantastic watching. Funny as hell, and the tactics and stuff they employ they're actually not too bad. So yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
But it's the fact they have one guy on the cast who knows nothing about Warhammer.
Yeah,
and he's just going, I've got the green ones.
The green ones, yeah. We have all been there.
Of course,
we have all been there.
But no, I think it's fantastic that we're now actually getting to see some nice, cool gameplay for that game, which really, really was exciting me. I mean, like, I was so jealous of Ben when he got to go and do that event.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well, it's out on the 24th. So yeah, you can
not long to go now.
Oh no.
Right. Will we take a quick break?
We'll take
after the break, we're going to be taking a look at the awesome looking This War of Mine.
Anime cyberpunk style meets skirmish combat in Infinity. Experience 8 high-tech factions and fight to control the human sphere at the Infinity Hub on beastsofwar.com. Flames of War brings you the battles of World War II in epic 15mm scale. Go to the hub on beastsofwar.com to find news, tactics, and tutorials about the game.
Okay, and we are back to have a look at this war of mine. Now, the guys from Awaken Realms have sent us through a beautiful prototype. This is actually one of the most advanced prototypes I've seen come through from any company. But the whole idea of this game, Warren, is you're not playing as soldiers, you're playing survivors, the civilians in a war zone. Now, this is something that's very, very different to any other game we generally get to play.
Well, the way it was put to me was that war is a nightmare, but it always happens on somebody's doorstep. And this is the game that is the story of what happens to the rest of us during war, because we're not involved in the big battles, the heroic moments. We're just scratching around to try and survive. And what I could we've had the chance to play some of the basic playthroughs of this and get to grips with it, have a feel for the components and the vibe of the game. The overwhelming vibe that we have been getting is that they've created a fantastically narrative game. So it can play from single player, where you basically are just playing against the machine.
So if you've played the video game, you'll get a similar experience to it.
Yeah. Or you can play multiplayer, where it's fully cooperative, and together you're trying to be that group of survivors that survive to the end of the war, or at least survive until a ceasefire takes place.
Yeah, now, this is something I quite like, is the fact that we're not playing as single players looking out for ourselves.
Yeah.
Every time this journal changes hands, you're taking care of everything for all of our survivors for that part of the turn.
Yeah.
You know, that is a very different type of thing to me, because normally I'd have my character, you'd have your character, and if things are going wrong, you might decide to leave me behind.
Yeah.
Now we have to look after everybody. I know how you play.
Yeah. Now, some of the interesting things, like let's give you a look at the board itself. So, Justin, if you can take us through the basics of what is where on the board.
Well, the first thing I'll do is I'll put our survivors down here. The guys have done some beautiful sculpts of these, but the main part of the board is this, right? So where you're seeing all these red cards, this is the shelter that you and your friends have found that you've decided to hold up.
So this is like an old hotel or an old motel or a warehouse or something like that. Yeah.
And inside it, you're seeing all these cards. So you've got things like closed doors, rubble, heaps. You're going to be scrounging through these through the day.
So this all represents like individual rooms and spaces.
Yeah.
So in order to go in there, you're going to have to clear the rubble and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and to get through locked doors, you'll either need something like a fire axe, a crowbar, or a lockpick. And eventually you're going to get to these cards, which are the heat cards. And inside them, you're going to find things like food, water, medicine, things that you need to start building the stuff you need to survive, which actually comes from this deck here. So if you bring this up for me, these are all the different items that you can put together. So actually, if I get it here, you can build things like a simple heater, because winter might end up hitting you, and then all your survivors are going to be getting colder and colder and becoming sick. You've got things like building a radio so that you can hear what news is going on in the city, where's good to go, where's dangerous. You've got workshops to actually let you build more gear. You've got building beds. This is one of the most important items you will ever build in this game. Because sleeping on a floor is not fun. You will not get a good night's sleep. I have done this at many a house party. It goes wrong every time.
Now let's have a look at the miniatures as well, because the sculpts are beautiful.
Yeah, well, we've got this, which is Anton, who is a professor of mathematics, and each of them come along with a stat card as well, telling you what their profession was, how good they are in a fight, what their empathy is like, how much they can carry when they're out scavenging, and what happens when things are starting to go wrong. Because
how their spirit reacts, or how they react.
Exactly. So you've got Anton there. You've got this guy, who is, I think you have his card over there in the character stack, just on the board.
Yep. There you go.
So this is Pavel, and ex-footballer. So you can imagine he's going to be pretty quick on his feet for whenever he's trying to run away from people and get around the place.
Yeah.
And it's a really mixed bag of who you're getting here. So this guy is, I think that's Brno, or is it Marco? No, it's Brno, who's a TV host chef. So it's people from all walks of life, but each of them brings some skills that might actually be useful to your group's survival. And the sculpts that they've done, these are actually the same characters that are in the video game.
Yeah.
And they've recreated them as beautiful, beautiful little 3D sculpts. Here we have Arika, who is actually a cat burglar, who's quite useful when you're out scavenging and stuff.
Yeah.
And the last one we have here is Marco, who is an expert scavenger. So, I mean, like, see, having played the video game, well, actually, whenever this arrived, I looked at it and went, wow, this looks really cool. Why have I not played the video game of this?
Yeah.
And I went out and I did the dumb thing and I bought the video game.
And what did you think?
I loved it.
Yeah.
It's one of the hardest games I've ever had to play, not because the game itself is difficult to play, but because of the moral choices it makes you make.
Is it emotionally charged then? The
Yes.
whole nature of this game, including the board game that the guys at Awaken Realms are on, is to create this emotionally charged experience.
They really do it well. They really do it well, because it's that thing of you do become emotionally engaged with the characters because you're seeing the way your choices affect them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, whenever I was playing the video game, just for handiness sake, I sent out Pavel on a night, and I went to this house. I was, rummaging around, finding some handy bits to bring back with me, and I met this man. And this man wasn't friendly. He decided he wanted my stuff. So, unfortunately, I had to kill that man.
Yeah.
And whenever I came back to the shelter the next day, he was sitting there, coming in the door going, what have I done? What have I become? What kind of a monster am I that I killed this person?
Yeah.
So it is dealing with the real emotions that you would see people have in that situation.
Let me stop you there then. So how does that kind of experience reflect onto the tabletop? Like, firstly, I take it you can send your scavengers out or your survivors out to try and scavenge and
every
stuff.
night you will be sending people out. So if you bring up the big layout of the board,
Yep.
you'll actually see up here at the locations, whenever you decide to send people out on a night, you'll choose one of the locations to go to.
Yeah.
And some of them are really dangerous to go to, some of them not so much. But each one will give you a map of things that are going to happen, which are going to give you bonuses to this, which is your exploration deck, which you're going to have to work through as you're rummaging around and through the area.
So you send them out to a location.
Yeah.
And then when they're in that location, there's a certain number of exploration cards that are
which
then
is marked. You see just at the side here.
Yeah.
This tells you how many you're going to get from that location.
So so for example, here we have the construction site.
Yep, that
it
was
says
at 10.
10.
So
And
there
then
are
you
10
have
in
to
here.
burn through 10 exploration cards to see what happens
Exactly.
or what you find.
Exactly. Or you can start activating the map cards to generate even more of those exploration cards to make it more worth your while.
Yeah.
So let's say we did this one first, which is an open space. I would have to use that open space card first, because that's the one that comes first in the line,
Yeah.
which would force me to raise the noise level by 2.
Yeah.
And as I explore the area, sometimes I have to roll for noise. And if I roll beneath or equal to what the noise level currently is, I could meet whoever's around the area.
Yeah.
And that could be anyone from, just beggars, a family trying to survive, raiders, even the military.
Right. So what you then find is that as in one of these searches or scavenge hunts, you're not only finding stuff that
You're
you can then
finding people.
use to construct things like a radio or a bed or something like that, but you can also stumble across people. And depending on the resources and the stuff that you have, you may not want more people to join or to be a burden or
Not really,
what?
because you only have the 6 characters in the game that you could have join you.
Okay, right.
Now, if you have all 6 characters there, yes, that's going to put quite the strain on your resources, because you have to take care of 6 whole people. But the bonuses of that are, while your other people are out scavenging,
Your
your
more
other
people can clear rooms.
No,
No?
not at night.
Oh.
Because at night you have 4 possible options. You can send up to 3 people out scavenging. You can have as many as you like guarding the door, because you never know. Someone might try and break into your shelter to steal all that stuff you've been gathering.
Well, let's talk about the cycles, okay? So what way do the cycles work? Is it like a morning, daytime, nighttime?
Yeah, so you'll begin in the morning. You'll activate an event card. So that's what's happening in the city today.
Yeah.
During the night raids phase, you will draw and consider 2 cards instead of 1.
Yeah.
And the night raids are whenever people are turning up at your door. So again, possibly beggars, possibly raiders. So it really does ramp things up. And the whole key of the thing is, you're trying to get to this card here. This is the Holy Grail.
you are hunting for. This is the ceasefire.
The ceasefire card.
Yeah.
Okay. So so you have to kind of work your way through those events.
Yeah, and
until you can get there.
Yeah, and it's got something that I really like. At the beginning of the game, you'll take 3 ending event cards, one of them being the ceasefire.
Yeah.
You then shuffle these up. So there's a little uncertainty as to when that ceasefire is going to
so it
happen.
could come a bit quicker or it could come a bit later.
Exactly, exactly.
Now, so that's in the morning.
Yeah.
You then have your daytime
Your daytime
phase.
phase is whenever, let's say we have 4 characters in our shelter here, right?
Yeah.
So at this point, I need to decide what's everybody going to do. So let's say one of our characters have been up all night scavenging. I'll put him to here through the day to try and sleep it off.
Yeah.
Because if he becomes too fatigued by status effects, let's say this was a fatigue, but it's actually a misery. See these 3 little crossbars here?
Yeah.
They tell me that I can only do my morning and my second afternoon action. So you can get 3 actions in a day for your characters. And them becoming more fatigued, more miserable, is going to start to make them less effective, and you're not going to be able to do as much in and around your shelter to get it cleared and get it livable and help yourself survive to the end. So it's a real resource management of how much fatigue am I putting into these guys,
So
how much misery.
So you could be sending lots of people out scavenging at night, but then the problem is that during the day
They're too tired to do enough to actually get stuff going.
Gotcha.
You know, so I mean, like, also during the day, I could send someone to a room and actually have them build a bed.
Yeah.
And having a bed built is a lot more useful because you're not sleeping on the floor, you're more comfortable. The other thing I could do is I could have one guy go through a heap. I could have one guy up here digging through the rubble with a shovel. Now I could do that.
Now
with 2 people.
they don't have to move 1 square at a time. I think they can go
They can
anywhere
go
they
to
want
anywhere
within
they
the
want
complex.
within your shelter.
Yeah.
But it's a real management of your resources. It's resource management in the purest sense, because you're fighting for the survival of these people. The other things you get through your events and stuff is, if I get one here. Oh, where is one? I think. These. So these can happen from a couple of different places. These are called reality impact, right?
Now, the reality impact system hasn't been fully fleshed out yet. The reality impact system is a whole additional framework that is built onto this.
This is where you get your deep narrative.
Yeah. So describe what we're expecting there. So
Right, well, basically, whenever I draw one of these cards, I then have to draw a color card. So let's say I had drawn it on an exploration, and let's say I was at the construction site.
yes.
I would draw one of these cards. Now, let me get it under the closest camera here, right? So these are your color cards, and these are one of the best things in the game. So you'll flip this. Okay, so it's a gray. So I would know it's gray, and I'm at the construction site. So on exploration, it says gray 875. So there's going to be a book that comes along with this that actually fills that out. So I would go to that book, go to the gray section, and read number 875. And that would be a little chunk of my story for this game. So
Now,
there's a real
they
mix-up on what can
explain
happen.
when all of this is in place that you'll be able to play through this game many times and never have exactly the same adventure.
Exactly.
In fact, they calculate that there could be up to 1,000 different adventures that you can play based on this. Now, obviously one of the things that I'm looking forward to finding out as we play this is it one adventure told 1,000 slightly different ways, or does it actually feel like 1,000 very different different adventures?
The thing is, don't forget, you are going to lose survivors in this. It is an absolute given. You are, unless you're very good.
What are your threats? Like, Ben, what are the threats in this game? Who should I be afraid of, or what is chipping away at my group?
Well, there's going to be the reality impacts of what they've done, so their insanity and things like that. And then, of course, there's going to be things like, obviously, you're in a war zone, so soldiers are going to get involved. As you go out and raid, people are going to try and raid you as well. Justin was saying you need to defend the door and things. So there's quite a lot of, well, dangerous things out there that are going to stop you guys. Yeah. And drive you slowly mad, basically.
This game runs a lot like life. Everything can kill you. I could be too hungry. I could be too sleepy. I could get wounded while I'm out on a night out and actually get an illness and get an infection and then die of my wounds that way.
Yeah.
There are a lot of ways this game can kill you.
It sounds incredibly deep. Another thing that they've built into the game is a save game mechanic.
Yes.
Which means that they've kind of already thought about this and have a little process that you can go through if you and your friends start to run out of time, where you can actually save the game and then come back to it. Anyway, the game is it's incredibly tense. It is incredibly tense. You know, even from the playthroughs that we've been doing of it so far, just these moral choices, you can't help but feel a much deeper connection. You know, it doesn't feel like little guys moving around spaces. It definitely does start to come to life in your mind very, very quickly.
It can come down even to something as simple as, okay, today I don't have enough food for everybody.
Yeah.
Who's going hungry?
Yeah.
You know, something as simple as that can really catch you.
There's a game that almost follows the same similar vein to this called Dead of Winter by Plaid Hat Games, and that has that aspect of choice and consequence. But in that game, the decisions you make are very instant, and that means that things are resolved quite quickly. The thing that I like about this is that the decisions you make might not come back for a long time, and the effects that has on your character might not come back for a couple of rounds, a couple of days. So you'll have this strange thing of, oh my god, that time I did this and I invaded this person's house and stole this. That's coming back to haunt me, kind of thing. And I love that sort of feel of the after effects. And the mechanics behind that is really good. I think it plays really well into the whole narrative story. And I love that aspect of these kind of games anyway, just something that tells a story and takes you through a journey and adventure that's sort of leading your characters and shaping them in different ways and things. It's really good. Fantastic stuff. Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, one last thing. There is a companion app for this as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So that'll be something to keep
back to the whole AI cloud thing again.
Yeah.
It's been very, very interesting to see where this goes. You know, it's an interesting topic, and we're seeing more of this kind of a different take on games, because we've all played the Warriors, we've all played all this.
We've all played the bright, fluffy adventures going, haha!
Yeah.
Like, one of the things I noticed about this game, your characters do not gain better stats through this game.
Yeah.
You are yourself.
Yeah.
You know, so everybody can go,
You're
if I was in a zombie apocalypse, I'd be fine.
Yeah,
no,
you
would not.
You're
are
not
yourself.
leveling up or anything like that.
No, the whole way through this game is going to be a constant struggle and a constant fight.
Well, it's on Kickstarter, guys. Definitely go and check it out. It's very worth checking out the video that they've done, because they have some supreme detail in the video about the game. Right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to finish the show with Oriskany. We're going to be talking World War II and Battlegroup. So we're going to say cheerio to Ben, and we'll be right back after we've told you about some hubs.
In a world controlled by massive corporations, a steady aim and split-second decisions are needed for your Megacon to complete its goals. Begin your missions at the Mercs Hub on beastsofwar.com. Venture into the dangerous dungeons of myth as a mighty hero and stand against the darkness. Visit the Myth Hub on beastsofwar.com and begin your story.
Okay, we're back with Oriskany from the website to have a chat about Battlegroup. And we couldn't have a World War II chat without bringing in Mr. Lyons, of course.
John overheard Oriskany on the screen and said, wait, hey, you can't have a chat like that without me. Yeah. So it's, right, we have an article series, Jim, running on the site all about Battlegroup.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
Okay, well, Battlegroup is a World War II tacticals miniatures game presented by Iron Fist Publishing and Plastic Soldier Company. Now, it's originally written for 15 and 20 millimeter, but really any scale is possible. Lots of people have had a lot of success with scales as small as like 10 millimeter or all the way up to 28 millimeter. It's also scalable in terms of the size of your battles. You can start up with a squad or a platoon, work your way up to a company, or if you're really brave, you can go all the way up to battalion.
Well, what sets it apart, Jim? You know, obviously there's a few big hitters in the World War II sphere. What sets Battlegroup apart as something that people should be zoning in on?
Well, the thing about it is, really, it's historical detail and its fidelity. And I'm really not trying to make it sound like it's too complicated or it's too rivet counting. It's not really like that at all. Like you say, there are definitely a lot of World War II games out there, and they're all great, and some of them are actually really, really successful. But a lot of times, it's kind of a game that happens to include like World War II looking units, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
A lot of times you can like switch out the units with moderns or sci-fi and still have the same basic kind of game. Battlegroup really focuses on the things that happened on World War II battlefields. And brings it to the tabletop in a streamlined, fun, and engaging manner.
So what are the kinds of the interesting standout mechanics and that so let me get this right. I've got a couple of questions, right? So
Okay.
Battlegroup it basically is a series of books. So it's not like a core set of rules and then you add army books and stuff like that. It doesn't work that way. It kind of has a book for a very specific theater or whatever, and everything is tuned around the playability of that theater. So like we have Fall of the Reich, Barbarossa, Overlord, and I believe Kursk and stuff is there. So all you need is one of these books. Is that right to go in and play that theater? Or
the one thing you will need is you will need a copy of the core rulebook.
Right.
Which is very small. I mean, obviously, compared to the books you were just showing a second ago, it's not that big a deal. This is just a core rule book that ties everything together. It like outlines like the framework of the game, the skeleton of the game, how everything really works. But yeah, you're right. You're going to need at least one of the Battlefield supplement books, or I should say, one of the campaign supplement books. Either Kursk, Fall of the Reich, Overlord. I'm trying to get them all in order here, which I've already not done.
Barbarossa,
Blitzkrieg, Wacht am Rhein just published, I think, earlier this year, or maybe very late last year. I think it was earlier this year. Their new book for strictly the Battle of the Bulge.
Mm-hmm.
There are 6 of them in all. Yeah, they're absolutely gorgeous books. I mean,
and like you say, at least one. For anybody watching that wants to get into this, basically that translates to pick one and go and enjoy it. You don't need all of them or a combination of them.
Pick your time period.
Yeah. So it is campaign centered in that sense, and is that why it allows itself potentially more historical accuracy and stuff like that, because it really zooms in on a particular campaign? Or
that's definitely a big part of it. Yeah. Also, a lot of the mechanics, as far as how things work. Like I'm getting into too much detail, but like how artillery works, how tanks are hit, and either they're penetrated or they're not. The way area fire works, the turn sequence, the battle rating counter system, which we can get into if you want. There are a lot of aspects of the mechanics that make it. I mean, all these games are historical. We're not trying to say anything about any of the other games, but just in Battlegroup, it's really it's really center stage. It's got pride of place.
Those are core mechanics, though, aren't they? It's like, for example, does the way tanks work change from campaign to campaign, or
it doesn't do that?
Yeah.
It doesn't. Battlegroup will. There's the same set of rules for all the different campaigns and for all the different time periods. There will be some very, very slight like unit abilities or like special events that can happen, depending on the different periods. Like your early war, if you're playing Battlegroup Blitzkrieg and you have a German platoon going into Poland, your guys are not carrying Panzerfausts. I mean, there are some very basic, there's some very minor changes that can happen. Mm-hmm. But it's really one system. What will change within that system are the units, and that plus the mechanics of the game are what allow a Battlegroup game to play out, and what really challenges the player to not just like know the tactics or read about the tactics in a rule book, but to actually say, okay, here are my units. Here's how fast they can go. Here's how far they can shoot. Here's how tough they are. Here's the terrain. How can I make those tactics work myself?
Yeah.
There are no special moves in chess. You have to sit there and actually devise the strategy yourself, make it work yourself, and actually do it on the table.
Mm-hmm. Now let's talk a little bit about the battle rating system, because from the gist of it I can get, this is like one of the core features of the game.
Yeah, it's definitely a central aspect of the game. It's not like the one thing that the whole game is about.
Yeah,
it is one of the things that sets it apart from other systems. So what'll happen is your army. It's not an army. That's the first thing about Battlegroup. They don't call it an army. They call it a battle group.
Mm-hmm.
An army is like your 8th Guards. An army is like 80 or 50 or 100, 120,000 men. So your battle group starts off the game with what they call a battle rating, and it might be, for a small battle maybe it's 30, for a big battle maybe it's 50 or 70, or it's up there somewhere. It's a number somewhere in there, and you'll have worked this out during building your battle group list or whatever to see how big your battle rating system will be, and then every time certain things happen in the game, usually unpleasant, most commonly whenever you lose a unit, you'll be compelled to blindly draw from a little box or something a battle counter, and that battle counter will have a number from 1 to 5 on it, usually. It's not as when I first read this rule, when I bought the book and I was reading the rule book and I hadn't actually played the game, I was like, wow, this sounds really random. It really isn't. First of all, there are a lot more 2s, 3s, and 4s than there are 1s and 5s. It's not a completely even mix of numbers in the battle group. In the battle rating chit draw.
What effect does that chit draw have on your army once you've actually drawn the number?
Well, here's the genius part of it that I think is the great part of it. You'll take the counter, you look at the counter, and it does depend a little bit on the honor system. I mean, you really have to know the guy you're playing with here. You'll look at the number and you put it face down, on your side of the table. For a standard 1 through 5, there are other counters. We can get to those in just a second. Now, your opponent will always be able to see how many of these battle rating counters that you've had to draw, but he never knows what their values are. And once your total value of total number of battle rating counters has reached your battle group's beginning battle rating, the game is over. Mm-hmm. That is when you've lost. It's got nothing to really do with how many, but it has to do a little bit, obviously, with how many losses you've taken, what objectives you've held. This is a measurement, a rather nebulous one, properly so, of how many of what your troops' morale is like, your battle group's part in a much grander scheme. You're always part of a larger battle. What's going on with your commanders, your superiors, because let's face it, in these kind of war games that we like to play, you're normally playing a company or a platoon, maybe, if you're really brave, a battalion. This makes you a lieutenant, a captain, a major, maybe a lieutenant colonel at best. Mm-hmm. You're answering to full bird colonels, brigadier generals, major generals, lieutenant generals. There's a whole level of people above you. And they might, they're watching what's happening on their little situation maps. And if it comes down to, again, you don't have to worry about all of this is what all is handled in the battle rating system. If they judge that your force has taken too much damage and not achieved its objective, it'll sit there and they'll give you a call on the radio. They'll say break off, fall back.
So it's good. That sounds quite realistic to me. So it's not a case of everybody sits there and bashes it out until the last man's dead. If you're not playing tactically, if you're not, I suppose, if you're not tactically exerting yourself upon your opponent, you're picking up more of these things, and it's more likely then that you'll get the call from above to say, right, fall back. You're not making any progress there. Or you need to.
Something's happened. Yeah, when you've run out of battle ratings, or when your battle ratings rating, I should say, your battle rating total meets and exceeds your beginning armor, your beginning battle rating number, something's happened.
Yeah.
Your men have revolted. If you're in the Soviet army, maybe the political officer just put a bullet in the back of your head. Something's happened that says that this battle's over. Now, what makes this game? Got to remember, the same thing's happening to the other guy. You're looking at his battle rating counters, and you're like, okay, he's drawn 10 so far. I know he started off with like a 30, so he might be getting close because 10. You figure the average number is like 2.5. That's 25 he probably has.
Yeah.
He's probably getting close. Then again, those might all be ones.
Mm-hmm.
Those might all be twos. And this is the wonderful part about this game is, you read about this stuff in history, and you've got, sometimes a unit gets hit, and man, they're down to like 2 guys, and they've got like, 3 machine guns, a Molotov cocktail, and a pack of chewing gum. And somehow they fight off a battalion of Panthers or something. I mean, some crazy thing happens. And then you've got the opposite happens. A unit gets hit, it falls apart. Or you might be attacking an objective. Side A, say the Americans. The Americans are attacking an objective held by Germans. And it's not until the history books are written 20 years later that the Americans, they were forced to withdraw. They didn't know how close the Germans were to that kind of stuff in movies all the time. Mm-hmm. If only they pushed one more time. The Germans were out of ammo. They they just lost 2 of their commanders. They were down to nothing. They were fighting with each other. If only the Americans had pushed, just as an example, if only the Americans had pushed just one more time. Holy cow! How could they not have done that? Yeah. It's all laid bare in the light of history. But Battlegroup doesn't give you that. Does not give you that I'm just on a tabletop. I can see the entire game out laid out in front of me. You never really know everything in Battlegroup, which is part of what makes it so great.
It sort of gives you an indicator of, okay, I can see my opponent's picked up quite a few of those. I think now it's time to put on that last big push to go for it.
And it could be the worst thing you've ever done.
Exactly.
Because they might still be well under. In other words, you have forced them to have these kinds of moments where they're drawing them, but the overall value of them is not what you expect it to be. I'm getting that. I really like that. What about, I've heard that the overall kind of mathematical side of the game, that there's some really good aggregate probabilities and stuff in the game. It's actually really well balanced from that perspective.
That's kind of the thing. I mean, taken in its own. Taking each event in its own, taking it by itself, taking it in isolation, you can be sitting there going, "Oh, I gotta draw a counter." It could be a 1 through 5, could be an airstrike. Sometimes, this is what we didn't quite get into a second ago. There are special counters in the battle rating counter mix or whatever, and some of the books, I think, For the Reich actually has special counters mixed in there, just a few, just a little bit for flavor, not enough to really change the game, to make the game specifically like a battle at the end of the war. But you can reach in there and you can pull out, and you're dreading reaching in there. Oh, I just lost another tank. Holy, here I go. I got to throw another battle rating counter. Oh, look, an airstrike, and a friendly plane comes in, and you can designate an airstrike. Or somebody just ran out of ammunition. You can play that on a unit, or one of your guys might get one of my favorites, the Beyond the Call of Duty counter. One of your units says, my buddy over there just got blown up, and he just loses his mind and goes crazy in a good way. He gets like basically a free turn. He can move, he can shoot twice, he can do all this great stuff.
So there's lots of scope for cinematic moments and things like that in it then?
I've had some epic cinematic moments. Some ridiculous. I mean, it would take like an hour to tell the whole story, but there's awesome moments.
Jim, we're looking at the first of the articles there. Justin's been kind of browsing through it. What is the basics of the article series that is going to be coming out over the next while?
Okay, well, part 1 is already published. It's just like a basic overview of what Battlegroup is all about, and talks about some of the base mechanics. Number 2, it handles fire and movement. Movement's pretty straightforward. There are some options when it comes to fire. There's like basically area fire and aimed fire, which is, you're literally shooting straight at the people. Mm-hmm. Whereas area fire is much more of I'm trying to pin them down kind of thing. There's indirect fire, there's off-board artillery fire, options like that. Part 3 goes into a lot of the other rules. Besides the basic, move and shoot, there's, how close assault works for infantry teams, how you can do battlefield engineering, you can lay bridges, you can call in artillery strikes, and, all those other special kinds of rules that can be added onto the game as you need them. And then part 4 does the way scenarios are set up in Battlegroup, and then it goes over briefly all the campaign books that you can get.
So the key here that we're trying to get across is, just because in many ways it goes for a high detail, high fidelity on the historical aspect, don't be afraid to give it a go. Don't be intimidated by it.
Try it. Just because Oriskany likes it, It's like, oh, that's that Oriskany guy. He's, the grumpy old grognard rivet counter. If he likes the game, it must be a pain. So I'm not touching it. By no means, don't ever think that.
Now, if you guys are interested, like I said, there's the article series firing up. It's been covered a little bit in the past, during some of the tactical games in the World War 2.5 article series used it. Last year's Desert War series used it as well, James?
Yeah, now there isn't a desert game or a desert book that's come out for this yet. A big guy who's really, really helped me out, I really couldn't have done this article series without him, is a Pierce Brand, who's actually works with Iron Fist Publishing. He's actually one of the writers. He does all the great photographs in that series. He's been talking to me a little bit about what might be coming out in the future, and one of those new campaign books that might be coming out in the near to intermediate future could be some sort of a desert-themed game. Ooh. So I was able to take like some of the unit ratings and things like Blitzkrieg, Barbarossa, and even Kursk, and because they used take a little bit out of each book and kind of cobble together my own thing for Desert War. I just don't want people to think that there's a Desert War book out there for Battlegroup yet. But again, my good friend Pierce tells me that it's very possible there might be one on the cards.
Well, if you're interested, guys, definitely go and check out this new article series delving into Battlegroup on the topic of what the future may hold for us. We're going to take the opportunity now to put our butts on the line. Isn't that right, Oriskany? We are now announcing, that in September, early September, all being well, we're going to be launching the Beasts of War World War II multi-system global campaign. This is ours. You see this beautiful face on the screen up here? Yeah, this is me and him. We're doing this. So,
what Frankenstein creation is this?
Wait till you hear. I am so excited about this one, right? So I said to Oriskany, right, Jim, I have a very easy task for you. Okay?
I have heard that a few times.
I want to do a global World War II campaign.
Okay.
I want it to facilitate multi-system. I want it to allow everybody to kick the shit out of everybody.
Okay.
And I wanted to explore something that might be deeply interesting. All right?
Right.
So, Jim went away for 10 minutes and came back and said, I think I know exactly what to do.
There was one more criteria that we had in there.
And what was that?
The criteria is that we don't want to be, we want to, be respectful and not respectful. We want to be, we definitely want a historical theme and a flavor, but we don't want to be, enslaved to history. We don't want to be
this is a huge what if, okay? Yeah. But I didn't want a what if of what happened if Normandy happened a different way. I wanted a genuinely interesting, almost unexplored what if, at least unexplored for me. Okay. So this campaign, we're reaching out to, if you're a World War II company that's involved with ground battles, potentially sea battles, potentially air battles, now's your time to reach out to us here on Beasts of War, because we are going to be launching in September our exploration in a global campaign of Operation Zeus.
Zeus? John, what is Zeus?
No one's going to know that because I pulled it out at the top of my head.
Okay.
Right? That came out of Oriskany's ass, but I love it. What Operation Zeus is our code name for Churchill's preferred invasion. So it seems that Churchill wasn't actually a massive fan of the whole Normandy plan for an invasion and had an alternative. Oriskany, do you want to take us through it so as people can get an idea of what we might be trying to do here?
Okay. Like Warren just said, Churchill had obviously been in World War I, or had been around during World War I. He'd seen some of the horrific losses that the British Army had taken in places like Flanders and Passchendaele, all through the Western Front in the trenches of World War I. And now they're in the middle of World War II, and the first thing, the Americans finally jump into the war, and the first thing they want to do is they want to invade northern France, straight through Normandy. And the second that topic hit the table, these lightning bolts of dread started going up Churchill's spine. He was like, oh, I can see it all happening again. His idea was to, and this goes back all the way back to World War I, if you look at things like Gallipoli and the Dardanelles and things like that, out in the south. His idea was to, the way to invade Europe, if you have to invade Europe, is to do it from the south. He was already engaged, as we remember, in a big war in the desert. This developed into an invasion of Sicily and finally Italy. Churchill's idea was to continue this kind of strategy and come up against the Third Reich from the south. This, on paper, has two big benefits to it. I stress on paper, and I cannot put the tectonic air quotes around this, big enough, because his name for the strategy was the soft underbelly of Europe. If you've ever traveled through the southern part of Europe, there's mountains, there's jagged coastlines. There's no soft underbelly down there. But the basic idea is, number one, the Germans are ready for you in northern France. They were building the Atlantic Wall. They have all these gigantic fortifications along the coast of, along the coast of Europe. If you have to attack somebody's house, do you really just kick in the front door? Mm-hmm. Or do you try to sneak in through a window or something? Can we get in through the sides, through the back? And that was kind of not really true. Now, the part of the strategy that might have made a little bit of sense is simply the fact that this kind of cuts the Soviets off at the pass. As we remember, we have the Soviets coming in from the east and the Western Allies coming in from the west, and they're going to meet in the middle, which is obviously what happened. They literally meet in the middle of Germany. Maybe if we invade from the south, into, obviously they did a little bit through Italy, but also through the Balkans, through what was then Yugoslavia, up into Austria, Czechoslovakia, and in those days, you kind of cut the Russians off at the pass.
And let me stop you right there. Let me stop you right there, because this is where it gets exciting. Because this campaign isn't just going to have Axis and Allies. No, we're going to be doing Axis, Allies, Soviets. Because of the crunch, once he showed me the map, right, of where this invasion was taking place in southern Europe, through those Balkans, right? You have the Axis in the middle, okay? Yep. You have the Allies coming in from that extended shoreline,
American, UK,
and you have the Soviets coming from the other direction.
Yeah,
and this means that you have the potential for Allies on Soviets as well.
So would we be coming up past the point where they're trying to push in?
This is a campaign. I want to see what would happen if it started to go hot down there as well. So
I suppose if you had Allied and Soviet units coming close together.
Because you have the Western Allies driving north, and you have the Soviets coming in from the east, and the Allies are like, we need everything north of us. The guys to the east of us, we don't want them to have that at all. So the oil fields have to be ours, and Berlin has to be ours.
I honestly think that this campaign would have been Patton's wet dream. I think Patton would have just said, "Yeah, I'll do that one. I'll get stuck into it." So it was to try and add another dimension to the whole thing, just to see what happens. Oreskany, back over to you, mate, to put my words into some sort of sense and context.
You're absolutely on the money. Quasi-historically, obviously this plan would never have worked for a whole bunch of reasons, but that's not the point. What we're trying to do is we wanted to build a campaign where everybody could participate, or at least as many people could participate as wanted to. If we did another big, strictly historical, Normandy or Battle of the Bulge, or something over in France, then everybody who has a big Soviet army is going to be kind of stuck there going, well, I can't play because I've got all these Soviets over here. This is what gets the most factions in. It has the most it still has a historical flavor, but by no means is it by no means is it beholden to any kind of history. We can have what happen whatever we want. The players really get to decide the outcome. It's not like, well, nobody's doing the whole historical professor thing. But yeah, and Operation Zeus, there were a bunch of deception campaigns. Because once they made up their mind that they were going to invade Normandy, they did have a bunch of deception campaigns to kind of convince German intelligence that we were going to go in through the south anyway. One of those might have been Operation Zeus.
Mm-hmm.
So I may not have pulled that name completely out of thin air. I'll actually have to check on that. But anyway, so if anyone like Googles it or something and finds it, like, hey, there really was an Operation Zeus. But obviously it never happened in any kind of a real sense. And that's what we're going to explore with this new campaign.
It's going to happen now.
Of course,
So,
you had Operation Fortitude, which was the one that convinced the Germans they were going to land in Calais instead. So
Yep.
you had
is that the one with all the inflatables and
all
stuff
the
like that?
inflatable tanks and stuff like that.
Patton's fake army.
Mhm.
Yeah.
FUSAG, first U.S. Army group, never existed, but that was Patton's. Speaking of Patton, if you're a Patton fan and really into that, the way we have it set up is this Operation Zeus kind of replaces all the real Allied invasions. So obviously Normandy never happens, Italy never happens. This allows people to even play the Italians if you want. They haven't been knocked out of the war yet. So Warren, this is your big chance to use all your auto blindas that I know you've been
Yeah, because we're setting this at around, was it 1943?
It's probably going to be like early 44, late 43. That doesn't even really matter.
September 43. We're thinking of it that the invasion launches on the 3rd of September 43. We're going to try and coincide the campaign to launch on the 3rd of September 43 as well, and see where we can go with it. But it's an opportunity for us to have small skirmishes, big battles, and we're looking at ways of how we're going to integrate all of this and make it all measure and things like that there. But mostly, it's just for a load of fun and a load of amazing battle reports from you and your mates to flood in, so that ultimately at the end of it, at Beasts of War, as a community, we can stand up and go, "Ha! You're Normandy.
Yeah.
You should have done Operation Zeus."
Actually, Warren, I have one little historical nugget for you that you might not know about from Churchill.
Yeah.
He actually wanted to be there at Normandy on D-Day on the flagship.
With his brolly and his cigar. That sounds like him, to be honest. That sounds like him. We'll get him a comfy deck chair on one of the battleships off the coast of the Balkans so he can watch this. So
speaking of historical figures, what I was saying a second ago is, because this is replacing all the other invasions that really did happen with our new one, this means the Americans never went into Sicily, which means Patton never ran afoul of his many discipline problems or whatever, and he was never in Operation Zeus's timeline. He was never not demoted, but he was never
held to the sidelines. Yeah,
he was never put on the sidelines.
And we could have Rommel there.
I just did the image of a mad dash between the two. British on the left, Americans on the right, flying through France.
The Soviet 8th Guard will be there. Because that was around the territory that they were battling across. Remember, we said Stalingrad and stuff hasn't happened by this stage.
Yes, it has.
Yeah.
So eighth Guards are definitely the 8th Guards by this point.
Yeah.
It's longer. It's like
I kind of want to see a Western Allied Axis pact against a Soviet push.
Yeah.
Because I could have imagined that would have happened, because I'm sure a lot of German units didn't want the Soviets anywhere near them.
It'll be interesting. We will discuss whether we do the possibility of alliances and things like that. In particular, we will set up a number of theaters, okay? And there will be probably some mechanics that theaters don't open until certain things happen.
Yeah.
But we may look into the possibility of having alliances build up in theaters where you could find the remnants of the Axis and the Allies going at it with the Soviets or something like that. We don't know yet, and then part of this we'll not know until the campaign actually gets underway. So.
I'd be interested to see how it goes, whether the Allies and the Soviets will push on back up into Germany, or if the Germans will actually maybe win this one and actually push everybody back out to sea
and just hold their own a bit.
We will hold their own and maybe even push them back.
We will wait and see. So there's a couple of community members. Panzer Kaput is hopefully going to get involved with us with a little bit of his graphical prowess.
Lovely.
So if you have, like I said, if you're a game company that wants to get involved in this, give us a shout. Other than that, discuss it below. Feel free to open a forum topic about it and post your ideas and stuff in there. We may not be able to do everything. Some things might be just too complicated. The most important thing is whatever we do, we're going to have fun with it.
Yeah.
And if we may host an event, possibly here at Beasts of War, where we will be playing out some of those battles.
Right.
What was
I need
that?
to get my
we might host it.
I can't. Well,
Yeah, we may well do a weekend. If that's something that you're interested in, make sure and let us know in a forum topic somewhere that you would be interested in coming here and playing out some battles, and we'll have a live blogged weekend of battles going into Operation Zeus.
Right, so James, you're coming back to Ireland then, yeah, mate?
it sounds like it. Yeah.
I think we have to get Warren a Churchill cosplay.
Oh yes.
Oh,
yes.
I don't know. I wouldn't put him in his Churchill.
Right.
I hear Churchill wanted to be in one of the landing craft.
What?
That's what I hear. I don't know 100% if that's true.
I heard that he wanted to be on the main battleship on the
He was
day.
overruled, obviously, and they
By
were
the
like,
king?
we're doing this Normandy thing, whether you like it or not. He said, okay, fine, then put me in the first boat.
Oh wow. Right.
And
Anyway.
the only reason he quit is because he heard that King George VI said, well, if you're doing it, I'm doing it. I got that off a TV show. I can't stake, the Oriskany seal of approval on it.
Everybody in the comments, go researching.
I'm like 80% true.
Let's make it happen. We need some miniatures of that. We need miniatures of Churchill and King George VI on deck chairs in a landing craft on the beach. Right. Look, guys, that's enough. All right. That's your lot for this week, everybody. A big thanks to Oriskany for joining us. Thank you, John. Thank you mostly to all you guys. Justin, you're hosting. I'm taking over. I'm going to lay back and let you.
Right, well, guys, that's the end of the show. Make sure and come across to beastsofwar.com tomorrow morning, where we have an entire other show called Weekender XLBS, which is this show, but more of this show.
It's not this show. It's a completely different show. You don't have to watch all this again.
Even more gaming goodness for a Sunday morning for you guys. We have a 7-day free trial that you guys can check out. Please remember, Beasts of War Backstage is the lifeblood of Beasts of War. It's what lets us keep the lights running, servers going, all the equipment up to date.
Campaigns.
Yes, campaigns. And if you're backstagers and you're maybe wanting to get in on this weekend, backstagers get the first bite at event tickets.
That's true.
Come across and join us. We'll see you tomorrow.
Fight for the Iron Kingdoms as a warcaster. Take control of the mighty jacks, arcane devices, and dark sorceries to bring the fight to the Warmachine Hub on beastsofwar.com. Keep your blaster handy. The West is a dangerous place. Fight to survive as men turn to monsters and the dead rise on the Wild West Exodus Hub at beastsofwar.com.